And throughout these weeks, we've talked about the importance of remaining vigilant and looking out for each other. I want to continue that message as we stand here this morning, though, because we don't know where this suspect has spent his last 24 hours, and therefore we still need to remain vigilant to ensure that no other packages or devices have been left through the community.
That's probably the most important message from Chief Brian Manley this morning from the Austin Police Department as they give us an update on everything that unfolded within the last couple of hours. We know the Austin serial bombing suspect is dead. As he said, there's still a lot of questions that they need answers to, and they don't know if there are still other packages out there. So they do want people to call in if they do see any of those suspicious packages. This is a live look at the scene that will be shut down for several hours this morning. This is on southbound I-35 at Old Settlers Boulevard. The FBI, ATF, bomb squad, all on scene this morning. Medical examiner as well, working to identify the body, but they do believe it is the suspect behind all of the serial bombings that have been happening in Austin since March 2nd.
In fact, this suspect was already under surveillance within the last 24 to 36 hours. He was holed up in a hotel in Round Rock and left the hotel in a vehicle. And that's really how officers explained how they traced this suspect who you see in these exclusive CBS Austin photos shared to us from our sources. That's how they tracked him, was through that vehicle to that hotel in Round Rock. But when the suspect started to get into the vehicle and move along I-35, that's when investigators knew they were not going to be able to allow him to get into Austin. He did have a bomb in that vehicle and detonated that bomb, killing himself. Let's go ahead and listen in to what Chief Manley had to say about that.
As members of the Austin Police Department SWAT team approached the vehicle, the suspect detonated a bomb inside the vehicle, knocking one of our SWAT officers back, and one of our SWAT officers fired at the suspect as well. The suspect is deceased and has significant injuries from a blast that occurred from detonating a bomb inside his vehicle.
So what you're hearing there is what happened. The vehicle was driving away and then stopped on the side of the road. That's when the bomb squad approached the car and the suspect detonated a device inside the car, which killed him. An officer then fired a shot there. The officer is okay this morning, but again, the suspect is confirmed dead. We do know it's a 24-year-old white male. They're not releasing his name. They do not know if it is a lone wolf, but they do believe that this man is connected to all of the bombings that have happened around the city.
This is a map of the location where all of this came to an end, and that is in the southbound lanes of I-35. Our traffic anchor, Sophia Stamas, has been tracking all the alternate routes. And Sophia, we are awaiting an interview with Mayor Adler, so we may have to break into your traffic report, but go ahead and tell us what all the viewers need to know.
Well, absolutely. This is a live look at I-35, the northbound view toward North SH-45. All of this is happening north of there. We need to keep in mind, this is our state's main artery, our city's main artery, and we have had an explosion there, and it is closed right now at Old Settlers. So this is going to impact everyone in Round Rock and Georgetown, north of there, and parts of Williamson County. So it's early now, but very soon we are going to have families waking up to go to work and school. Plus, we have those other commercial vehicles and other people traveling through the state, through the Austin area. You do have that option of Chisholm Trail running perpendicular right there to parallel to I-35. Also, traffic being diverted to the service road there. But for safety's sake, you want to avoid this. We can see we have Adam out there in the field. We have Jordan out there in the field. We can see we have lots of crews out there investigating on foot. We want to give them the time and the space that they need to do what they need to do. Your best bet, of course, from the Georgetown area and Round Rock, if you can get over to SH-130, you want to take that southbound. And I'm going to toss it on back to you, Lindsay and Allison.
Thanks, Sophia. Yeah, we do have Adam Hammonds, who is speaking to Mayor Adler, so we want to head out to him.
This will be live. Yeah, hey guys, I have Mayor Adler right here. First off, it's been a long 3 weeks. How are you feeling right now?
Well, you know, there's both a sense of relief at this point and gratitude. This team, this army of law enforcement we've had has been pretty incredible to watch, the sophistication. So an entire community's thanks to Chief Manley and our officers, the state folks, the federal folks. But I think everybody needs to remember that this investigation is continuing. We still need people to be vigilant and to look around them to see things that are suspicious. We don't know where this suspect has been the last 24 hours. The investigation is continuing. There are still open questions, but this is great news this evening.
Yeah, you mentioned an army of law enforcement out here. You mentioned that in the press conference. Why did you feel the need to thank the law enforcement and the federal agencies that came here in Austin?
Well, you need to thank them because they put themselves at risk in order to keep the rest of us safe. They've worked around the clock and diligently, and they've answered a lot of the questions, and I hope they've now made this stop. So it's important. I would think that everybody that I'm getting texts from are asking me to say thank you.
There's been a lot of scared people out there this past 3 weeks. What really has been like for you as this whole process was going? It seems like it's just escalating day after day throughout this whole process.
Well, I think that with each incident, the anxiety level has increased, the fear has increased, the helplessness has increased. At the same time, we knew the things that we needed to do was to focus on the things that were suspicious and to report them. As the facts come out of this, I think the community is going to see the importance of that. And going forward, what my hope is that as a community, we're going to start doing a better job. We need to do a better job of walking across the street and introducing ourselves to the neighbor across the street or down the street or across the hall. As we've asked people to notice what's going on around them that's suspicious, we've had more neighborhoods starting to come together. But we've also realized that we can do better at this. And I hope that is one of the real takeaways. As a community, we need to get to know our neighbors better.
So it's also not done yet. They everyone to remain vigilant for the next 24 hours. I don't know if there's more devices out there. What is your message today?
The message today is remain vigilant. Keep your eye out for things. This investigation is continuing, and we have considerable relief, but we still need to be on watch here until the chief tells us it's okay.
And then finally, I know there's the FedEx facility here in Austin. Right. What is the status of that right now as far as getting them back open and getting packages out to Austin residents?
I don't know the answer to that. You're going to need to ask the chief.
Fair enough. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Right,
appreciate your time.
Take care.
Thank you.
Any message to Austin?
Thank you. Adam Hammonds was able to snag Mayor Adler for that live interview. And of course, you heard him repeating a lot of the messages we heard in that news conference about 45 minutes ago. Now, if you're just joining us, it's 5:45 on Wednesday morning. Several hours ago, the Austin serial bombing suspect was caught and killed himself in a confrontation with police. It turned into an officer-involved shooting. Shots were fired. None of the officers were seriously injured, but when that suspect detonated the bomb inside of a vehicle he was driving, he pulled over to the side of the road, detonated that bomb, and it did blow back one of the SWAT officers, but he is expected to be okay. But that message, I just keep hearing it, remain vigilant. Do not let your guard down. And Mayor Adler also adding to that, get to know your neighbors. Let's do a better job as a community of keeping each other safe and looking out for those things that are considered suspicious. So just to recap, a 24-year-old white male was the Austin serial bombing suspect. Police had him in their sights for days now. They were conducting surveillance at a hotel in Round Rock, and when that suspect started to go on the move, that is when all of this ended early this morning. Now, we've been on the air now for about 4 hours straight because we continue to cover all of the developments coming out, including this brand new first look at pictures from surveillance video. Our sources tell us these pictures are from surveillance video taken inside that Austin FedEx office this past weekend. And we're told that members of the U.S. Marshals Lone Star Fugitive Task Force in the Austin Division gathered those clues and helped the lead agencies get an idea of where that person of interest might be, and he was quickly upgraded into a suspect. And they're very confident that he is responsible for all of those explosions that happened in and around the Austin area.
Right. They're not sure if he's a lone wolf, but they do say that he is responsible for all of the bombings across the area. We, of course, want to keep you updated with your weather and traffic, so we want to head on over to Nicole. A little warm up in store for us after a nice cool down from that cold front.
Yeah, that's right. Our temperatures this morning are so far the coldest they've been this week. We've dropped down to 35 in Fredericksburg, 37 over towards Plano, 38 in Mason, 47 here in Austin. So you will definitely want that jacket before you head out the door this morning, but layers again as we continue through the day. We do have some clouds that have built up through the hill country, stretching through the I-35 corridor as well, and these clouds shouldn't stick around for too much longer. Again, a mostly sunny day is ahead of us. Current temperatures anywhere from 5 to 15 degrees colder than this time yesterday, so if you were a little chilly yesterday morning, you will want to throw on that extra layer. Good news is by this afternoon, we're returning to the warmth. High temperatures yesterday topped out in the middle and lower 70s, and we're going to be a couple degrees warmer as we go into this afternoon. Highs in the upper 70s across the area. So despite this chilly start, we're still going to see a nice warm up by the end of the day today. Temperatures actually a couple degrees above our seasonal averages of 74 degrees at Camp Mabry. So we will get up to those upper 70s today, and the warm up does not end here. We're going to continue tacking on a couple additional degrees pretty much every day as we head through the rest of the week as well as into the weekend. Our temperatures will get back up to those lower 80s by Friday. We will also start to bring in some additional cloud cover as well as that moist Gulf air. That will result in some higher humidity into the weekend. Could bring about a couple spotty showers for Saturday and Sunday, but rain chances will stay very low until Monday and Tuesday. That's when we could start a more active pattern. Sophia?
And if you are just waking up with us, we do have a traffic alert. Southbound I-35 is closed at Old Settlers. Of course, that search for the Austin bomber ended there early this morning with an explosion and a shooting. So this is right between Highway 79 and 1431, impacting those traveling in from the Georgetown Round Rock area. Your best bet right now to take southbound SH 130 from I-35. That'll get you where you are going. Many roads, many side roads leading to your majors, but southbound SH 130 at Greg Manor, once you get toward the Palmer area, you do need to look out for some debris in the road right now. Now, if you are west of I-35 in the Sun City area, and then west of there, we also have Jim Hogg Road, several neighborhoods around here, and you need to make your way around avoiding I-35. You have a couple of options. You can take southbound DB Wood down to Highway 29. That'll get you over to Ronald Reagan. That's right here. And of course, that could take you over to Highway 183 as well. You could take Ronald Reagan all the way down to 1431. It will also turn into Palmer once you get to 1431 as well, depending on where you are going. In Georgetown, a couple of detours eastbound and westbound. You could take Highway 29 or Leander Road westbound to Ronald Reagan southbound. Again, 1431 SH 45. And of course, you have that eastbound option to head over to the toll road, SH 130. And Round Rock, you got some detours. A really good idea for that area east of I-35 is going to be A.W. Grimes, which runs parallel to I-35 and will take you lots of different places. You can get there by going eastbound on Southeast Inner Loop, eastbound on Westinghouse. Down southbound A.W. Grimes, you can get to Highway 79 to North SH 45, or A.W. Grimes also turns in to Grand Avenue Parkway south of North SH 45, and that just loops right on over to I-35 south of where all of this is going on. Where this is going on right now, 16 miles per hour on that southbound side of I-35 and Round Rock toward this incident at FM 3406, a.k.a. Old Settlers, while southbound I-35 is closed. And we do have lots of crews out there, investigators who are trying to figure out exactly what happened, collecting evidence. And this is going to be closed for several hours, so it will impact your rush hour commute.
So as we go through the day today, we want the community to remain vigilant, but I also want to look at where we are now in Round Rock and remind our neighboring communities of Round Rock and Cedar Park and the other cities that we do not know where he has been in the past 24 hours, and we need your communities to remain vigilant as well.
And that's one of the big questions that they will hopefully get answers to today. That is Chief Brian Manley you are hearing from. We just heard from him about an hour ago. The Austin serial bombing suspect has killed himself. This happened about 2 hours ago at that location on I-35 and Old Settlers Boulevard. If we can take a live look at the scene. But basically he was saying that they found the car that they've been tracking at a hotel in Round Rock. It led to this scene where the vehicle stopped after a brief chase and bomb squad approached the car. That's when a device was detonated. It killed the suspect. They're remaining on scene this morning. They do say it is a 24-year-old white male. They don't know if he was working alone, but they do know that he was a part of the bombings that has been happening around the city that all started on March 2nd here.
So just about 10 minutes ago, the governor sent out his reaction in a brand new tweet saying, "Big news, the Austin bomber is dead. More work needs to be done to ensure no more bombs had been sent before he died. The investigation continues to learn more information. Congratulations to the combined law enforcement effort." And really, if you're just joining us now, it's 5:52 on your Wednesday morning. That is the big message from all of the city, county, law enforcement officials. Everyone's saying remain vigilant because at this hour, they just don't know if there are any packages still out there that have not yet detonated.
And on Abbott's note as well, he was congratulating the law enforcement effort. This has been a huge effort with over 500 federal FBI agents here in town, along with ATF, bomb squad, led by our Austin Police Department here. They've all put in a lot of work, and FBI Christopher Combs said earlier this morning, he said, the work's not done. We're going to stay here until we get our questions answered. The suspect has killed himself. We obviously can't ask him questions, but they're still going to figure out the why and the how behind this. So a lot more work still has to be done this morning. Jordan Bonke earlier this morning, he's been following this, I think, 24 hours straight now. Talked to a few witnesses that were near the scene where the suspect stopped his car, where the device detonated, where bomb squad was approaching. And we have a little bit of sound from someone who was in that area at the time.
Yeah, we spoke with a witness that was out here earlier, and they were just happened to be standing in the area. And I approached him. I said, "Did you hear or did you see anything?" He said, "Yeah, I was staying up late with my brother, and we were watching television, and we decided to drive around because we heard so many police sirens." And that's when they, in this area where you're seeing all of this law enforcement presence, they passed by, and the way they described it to us is they saw two unmarked law enforcement vehicles sandwiched between a Jeep. And then they described what was like a Wall-E-typed bomb robot. I know that's a Disney character, but a bomb robot that was approaching that vehicle. Come to find out here hours later, Chief Brian Manley says that a SWAT officer was actually blown back from a blast when that Austin bombing suspect was inside that vehicle and detonated one of these bombs. Now, that officer only received minor injuries, and there was an officer that did fire his weapon during this, and that's why we have this officer-involved shooting investigation over here, and it is protocol for that officer to be placed on administrative leave for some time. But that gives us a little bit more of a clear picture of what took place here this morning. And just to give you an idea of the strength of these explosives, if you remember back on March 2nd, we showed you the door in that Northeast Austin neighborhood. That was completely blown out on the left-hand side, and the door itself was blown out. And of course, we heard from neighbors in that area of what happened to that man, 39-year-old Stefan House. And of course, if we go to that Southwest Austin neighborhood, yeah, we saw that not so impressive divot in the ground, but if you looked on the fence, you can see shrapnel from these blasts. And this was the one that was detonated by a tripwire, and that shrapnel had cutouts in the fence that were almost absolutely pristine from that shrapnel. Now here today, the suspect, we find out, detonated some sort of explosive and blew himself up in that vehicle. What's going to be a struggle here for investigators going forward is why he was doing something like this. I was just speaking with an anchor at the BBC, and he says, do we know anything about a motive? But one piece of information that may help investigators is actually that security video that we have exclusively at CBS Austin. You'll see on the packages, they're addressed to someone. That could help investigators. But for folks who are waking up this morning, yes, there is a sigh of relief that the Austin bombing suspect is dead. However, Brian Manley made it very clear. It's still time to be vigilant because we don't know where this suspect was in the past 24 hours. Something to definitely keep in mind. However, in the immediate next few hours, we are told by Round Rock Police that Interstate 35 headed south, we'll give you a clear picture of this, that's going to be closed off for the next 4 to 6 hours. In fact, if you pan a little bit more this way, you can see that there's absolutely no one even on the access road, whereas earlier this morning there were folks that were out here. So this will definitely be a traffic nightmare for those who are headed anywhere north of 1431 Old Settlers Boulevard all the way south into Austin. But the story this morning is the Austin bombing suspect is dead. We're live. Jordan Bonnke, CBS Austin News.
Thanks, Jordan. We want to head back out to those surveillance images of the suspect in the FedEx on Brody Lane. Sources tell us these are from the surveillance that was taken inside the FedEx. And we're told that members of the U.S. Marshals Lone Star Fugitive Task Force, the Austin Division, gathered the clues here and helped the lead agencies get an idea of where that person of interest is, who's now the suspect, and he is confirmed dead. And to Jordan's point, there was an address on those boxes that he delivered to that Brody location, one of which was diverted to the Schertz, Texas location that exploded. That is typically where some of those Austin packages go before they're then sent to their final destination. And then another package near the FedEx location at the airport. But Chief Brian Manley has said that they are in contact with the persons, the recipients of those packages. So that could be a clue or a link to the motive of this. They'll be talking with those people. But these are the images of the suspect, the 24-year-old white male. We don't have a name, but this is the suspect in the Austin bombings incident. They don't know if he's a lone wolf, but Chief Manley says that they are confident that he is the person behind all of the bombings that have happened in the Austin area since the start of this back on March 2nd.
Adam Hammonds continues our team coverage this morning for us as a result of all that has unfolded within the last few hours. Adam, what do you have for us?
Well, as you heard earlier, we did talk with Mayor Adler just about what's this been like for the past few weeks. He really wanted to put out a message of thanking the law enforcement. He mentioned there's just an army of law enforcement from federal agencies, from the ATF and FBI, Homeland Security, all out here to help solve this. He really wanted to thank them for all their work and getting this, finding the suspect and culminating in this end tonight. I also asked him what his message is, or really what this past few weeks have been like as far as how people have been scared, and then now that it is over. He mentioned that it's just something where we need to get to know our neighbors throughout our community and really come together and get to know each other. And this is something that could maybe bring us together as far as bringing everyone together as a community. But I kind of want to recap also the press conference that was just a few moments, 30 minutes ago or so. If you kind of look behind me, that hotel, they tracked him down to the hotel across the interstate right here. They tracked that suspect to there. They were waiting for him, for a tactical team to come behind them. But the suspect left before they were able to get that team in. So they followed him, and at some point, the suspect pulled into the side of the road. And if you pan back over here to where the scene is, he went into the ditch. And that is where he detonated his device, killing himself, also throwing back that officer, and the officer shot at him as well. As you can see, it is still an active scene. There's a lot of ATF, FBI, local law enforcement covering this scene. It looks like they are blocking the scene right now as they continue to investigate. But this will be quite some time. One thing to note that I didn't mention earlier about the press conference, that the scene in Schertz at the FedEx distribution center, that is still ongoing. We asked Chief Manley about that. They said they're still investigating. They're still making sure that everything is safe. He said that's going to take a while to process. So any kind of packages coming from that FedEx distribution center will still have to wait. Even though the suspect is dead, this story still continues for a long time. Again, the FBI said specifically, we're not done yet, because they don't know where the suspect has been for the past 24 hours. They don't know what he has done, if there are any more devices out there. And that's one thing that they really want to push. Everyone still need to remain vigilant, as far, especially up here, because this is a Cedar Park Hotel, Round Rock Hotel. There hasn't been any kind of explosions in the northern area of the Austin area in Cedar Park or Round Rock. They want those communities to remain vigilant, even more vigilant maybe they have been before, thinking that maybe these explosions were in the past. So they want everyone to remain vigilant, because, as they're saying, this is not over yet. Back to you guys.
Adam Hammond's live for us. If you're just waking up this morning, your time right now, 6:02. We have learned the serial bomber that has been possibly linked to every bomb that has gone off since March 2nd in Austin has now killed himself. We're following this story. We've been on since about 2:15 this morning. We're going to be checking in with our Jordan Bonke and Adam Hammonds once again for a recap.
Yeah, a lot of new information coming into our newsroom at 6:02, though. We do want to get a check of your weather and traffic together. We're going to start with Sophia, because I-35 is not the route you can take now to get downtown.
Yeah, Chris and Ellie, I mean, you could see all of that activity going on behind Adam right now, and we're definitely seeing the delays growing as more folks hit the road this morning. You can see the stack up now building past Westinghouse. And what we are also seeing are some big delays on Highway 79 as folks make their way over to I-35 in the Round Rock area, possibly not knowing exactly what's going on. If you're waking up with us and you are in that area, Highway 79, you do have some options, but you want to avoid I-35 just west of there. You want to go southbound on A.W. Grimes or Redbud Trail to get you over to Gaddis School Road, or just make your way over on 79 over to SH 130. Also can take 130 if you are up in the Georgetown area. The northern portion of Georgetown might have to head northbound to go southbound as well. And you can go southbound at detour on southbound SH 130, and then also you have that option to head over westbound on SH 45 if you want to get back to I-35. I talked about possibly taking 79 earlier. That will not get you there now. Also westbound on 290, if you go all the way down to East Highway 290, need to get closer to this city. If you are going to travel through there, be aware we've got some debris in the road on southbound SH 130 at Greg Maynor. Of course, also in Round Rock, you have some detours on that eastbound portion. You can go eastbound on the Southeast Inner Loop or Westinghouse to A.W. Grimes. That'll take you southbound to Highway 79 or SH 45 or directly over to I-35. Your traffic and weather always together. Nicole Hartford has a look at your forecast.
Thanks, Sophia. We do want to get you ready to start off your day. Temperatures right now in the 30s and 40s. It's chilly. We are sitting at 39 in Llano, 44 in Austin. Most of us not too worried about the wind chill. The exception is down towards San Marcos, where we're sitting at 41, but it actually does feel like 38 degrees. And it is chillier right now than it was this time yesterday morning, so you will want to throw on that extra layer before you head out the door. Still mostly clear skies, although some clouds have filtered in towards the hill country as well as through the Austin area. These should clear out pretty quickly, so that will sit under mostly sunny or completely sunny skies once again throughout the day. High pressure still in control of our weather pattern, and that does mean clear skies are here to stay at least for about the next 24 hours. This high pressure will start to move out of the way to make way for our next incoming system. We will also shift those winds back around towards the southeast, and that means we're going to start bringing in that more humid Gulf air. Not really going to feel the change today. Temperatures will be in the 60s by lunchtime. Still a little chill in the air if you are in the shade, but in the sun it should still feel very nice. High temperatures will top out in the upper 70s. And then we'll stay a little milder overnight with low temperatures tomorrow, only dropping down into the low 50s. We are continuing a warm up over the next couple of days. Highs today and tomorrow, upper 70s, as well as a few lower 80s. And then we'll start to see more widespread 80s by Friday and into Saturday. And we're going to hang on to that warmth for a little while as we move into next week. But our conditions will start to change up. We're increasing cloud cover by Friday. We'll sit under partly cloudy to completely overcast skies throughout the weekend. Could see a couple spotty showers both Saturday or Sunday, possibly even a few isolated thunderstorms by Sunday night and into Monday. But our rain chances will stay pretty low through the weekend. It's not until Tuesday that we'll really start to uptick those rain chances, with a more active pattern likely into the middle of next week.
As members of the Austin Police Department SWAT team approached the vehicle, the suspect detonated a bomb inside the vehicle, knocking one of our SWAT officers back, and one of our SWAT officers fired at the suspect as well. The suspect is deceased and has significant injuries from a blast that occurred from detonating a bomb inside his vehicle.
You're hearing from Chief Brian Manley of the Austin Police Department on the events that unfolded just a few hours ago. He was describing the moments that led up to the time when the officers approached the vehicle that they believed was the Austin serial bombing suspect. He killed himself when that device was detonated, and this is the location. It's on I-35 on the southbound side, right near Old Settlers Boulevard. But they say that they've had this man as a person of interest for a while, but he just recently, within the last 24 hours, became a suspect. They don't know his whereabouts, what he's been up to the past 24 hours, so they are asking the public to remain vigilant and call in any suspicious packages. There could be others out there. I know there's a kind of a collective sigh of relief. I've been following the social media trends on this, and everyone's kind of relieved that he is now dead. But again, there still could be other devices out there that he has placed. So that is one thing that they're going to be looking at. This is a live look at the scene. This has been 3 weeks in the making now. That all started on March 2nd. But they do say that he is a 24-year-old white male. They don't know if he is a lone wolf, but they say that there are enough similarities in the bombings that have happened over the course of the past 3 weeks that they do believe that he is connected to all of them. The package explosions, the tripwire, the explosion in Schertz, Texas as well. So they do believe that he is the main guy behind these. Again, a 24-year-old male. They're not going to release his name until that medical examiner has a positive ID on the body, and they have notified next of kin.
So what we do know from Brian Chief Manley, updating us on this media, that hotel right there is where they say that suspect was at. They had surveillance on him. SWAT members were about to approach him. They were waiting for more tactical members to arrive. When they saw him leaving the property is when they approached him, and that is when he led them maybe half a block away, and that is where they were able to take him down. Officers fired after he detonated that device, killing himself. We do know Mayor Adler was on hand for the briefing that happened just about 30 minutes or maybe an hour ago. Also, Spencer Kroc, the Austin city manager, the ATF, and members of the FBI were there ready to speak to the media. Here's what Mayor Adler had to say.
Well, you know, there's both a sense of relief at this point and gratitude. This team, this army of law enforcement we've had has been pretty incredible to watch, the sophistication. So an entire community's thanks to Chief Manley and our officers, the state folks, the federal folks.
And we want to say this is how it got here. We had some exclusive pictures from this past weekend that CBS Austin was able to get from our sources, and it seems like those photos, as well as a number of surveillance that these officers were following, is what led them to this location. There are those pictures right there. He had 2 packages that he dropped off to that FedEx Kinko's in South Austin.
Yeah, and those are the packages that you see there. One, again, was delivered to the Schertz, Texas location that exploded. Another to the airport FedEx location. But these are images of that 24-year-old white male wearing the ball cap and what appears to be gloves as he brings in those 2 packages. Chief Brian Manley did say that it was video sources and witnesses that ultimately led this person of interest to quickly become the suspect. And what they found his vehicle at that hotel in Round Rock, like Chris was saying, and that's where they surrounded the car and were able to eventually track him down.
And these last 2, this last explosion that happened yesterday at that Schertz distribution center, That didn't kill anybody, fortunately, but it did hurt someone there. So the last time somebody was killed was last week when that 17-year-old here in Austin was killed, and it appears his mom, who was 45 roughly, is the one who's still recovering from her injuries. And
we had talked to a security expert, Fred Burton, who said that he believes that this person was pretty much stockpiling some of these bombs, and that's one of the reasons that police are wary that there could still be more out there. And Chief Manley touched on that at the press conference earlier this morning.
And throughout these weeks, we've talked about the importance of remaining vigilant and looking out for each other. I want to continue that message as we stand here this morning, though, because we don't know where this suspect has spent his last 24 hours, and therefore we still need to remain vigilant to ensure that no other packages or devices have been left through the community.
And on that note, Mayor Adler had mentioned this is a good opportunity to, moving forward, get to know your neighbors, walk outside and go to your neighbors and meet them. One of the things that they'll be looking at is where this person lived, his residence, if it is in fact in Austin or not. But they're obviously going to be combing through evidence, trying to figure out the why, the how, why Austin. And one of the things they'll be doing is talking to his neighbors, talking to his family members, seeing if there was anything that may have drawn them to this person before this all started. Manley said that they did have this person of interest, but it wasn't until after these explosions had started. So they really hadn't had this guy on the radar until these serial bombings started in the Austin area. Again, this is a live look at the scene where the Austin bombing suspect has killed himself. He detonated a device inside his car. That killed himself. An officer had fired a shot. The officer is doing okay. The one that was closest to that scene will be on administrative leave, as is protocol for these events. But again, this location, if you do hear the sirens, if you're seeing this activity, this is I-35 southbound near Old Settlers, and this will be shut down for the next 3, 4, possibly more hours than that now.
If you're just joining us, it is 6:13 right now. We want to give you an idea of how we got here. About 2 o'clock this morning is when we got word that there was a potential chase happening on I-35, and that is when our Jordan Bonke arrived at the scene near that area, 35 and Old Settlers Boulevard. North and southbound lanes were closed. They were closed for about 8 minutes. The northbound lane was the first to reopen. Jordan then got word that something was happening about half a mile northbound. That is when he relocated and realized what was going on. At that time, we had just gotten a report of an officer-involved shooting. We didn't quite know if they were connected to the serial bomber as police continued their search for him. It wasn't until one of our sources from APD did confirm that that officer-involved shooting did involve the serial bombing suspect, who we later found out ended up killing himself by detonating a device. We've covered officer-involved shootings here for a number of years, but when we saw the capacity of this, the caliber of this one, we realized something was different about this because the FBI agents were on hand as well as ATF.
Bomb squad.
The Austin Bomb Squad was dispatched. So this crossed jurisdiction into Round Rock, but since this has all been going on since March 2nd, county sheriff's departments, local law enforcement, Pflugerville, Round Rock, San Antonio Police Department, they have all been in contact, working together to see what information they could share. So that is when APD crossed that jurisdiction and was trying to find if the suspect was the person they were looking for. In the end, we found out, according to Brian Manley, our interim chief, that this was that person. So now we're at 6:14, about 4 hours later, and so much has happened.
Right.
Considering that it started as a chase, and this is how it ends.
Well, and we've been in the newsroom all night long, and we had an inkling that that's what was happening, but you know, we're not going to come on air and confirm any of that until we get the confirmation from authorities. And that is eventually what they came to say, is that they do believe that that is the Austin bombing suspect. One of our reporters, Jordan Bonke, has been in that location all night long, and I know I've seen a lot of tweets overnight, Jordan, because earlier this morning, as Chris was saying, there was a lot of activity. The choppers were flying over, so this might have been the moment that woke a lot of people up and saying, well, what's going on out there?
Yeah, you know, we started reporting on this story right after we finished our 10 o'clock broadcast. We just heard a tip that there was a suspicious package investigation in Pflugerville. And in the news, we do not stop just because the broadcast does. So we made our way there, and that's just part of the realm of living in Central Texas at the time after these Austin bombings. Is just because there is a suspicious package there, it needed to be investigated in that manner. But that's when we started seeing some of these law enforcement officers shooting up 35. Austin SWAT, Austin Bomb Squad, they were making their way up here at speeds that you probably shouldn't be driving on the access road. And we got out here, we saw that there was a tweet from the Austin Police Department that there was an officer-involved shooting investigation. And when you come to an officer-involved shooting investigation like we have in the past for Manchaca and other areas of South Austin, you typically don't see FBI agents or you don't see bomb squad cars. Yeah, sure, you may see a SWAT car, but definitely not a bomb squad. And that's what we saw across the street. And it was just a few moments later that we got word from our sources in law enforcement that the Austin bombing suspect was killed. And so with that, that explained why the interstate was shut down at Old Settlers Boulevard at 1431 for such a long time earlier today. And then Manley, we did catch an image of him as he was over there with Chief Dixon, something that we haven't seen, and it is perhaps a representative of the community, something that we've seen on social media. But we saw Manley with a brief smile, and he had a coffee with him. We know that he's been working long hours, and he almost appeared to hoist the coffee, but he was smiling, and that's something that a lot of people are waking up this morning realizing, you know, here we have a suspect that was terrorizing our city, and it's something that we don't have to worry about. However, Brian Manley did say in that press conference he wants the community to stay vigilant. You saw in those pictures from the FedEx cameras that we have exclusively from our law enforcement sources what this suspect looked like. Yeah, he was wearing a wig and he had on these big baggy pants. Other than that he's a 24-year-old man. We didn't know too much about him, and Austin police didn't want to release his name. But what may be important for investigators is that there are names on those packages of where they were supposed to end up. And they have been in contact with those people, according to Austin police. But with that should say, yes, we should be happy that this is coming to some sort of closure right now. But Brian Manley was asking the community to remain vigilant because we don't know, he said, where this suspect has been in the past 24 to 36 hours. And for that, they did get a tip, Austin police, that at this hotel right here, that's where they were surveilling and monitoring, thinking that's where the suspect was. Now, we spoke with some witnesses out here who said that the suspect's vehicle was being pursued on I-35 headed south and was sandwiched in between two unmarked law enforcement vehicles. And then we also heard from a witness out here that there was a bomb-type robot that approached that vehicle. And then we later found out at the press conference that vehicle did explode, and that is what killed the suspect. And of course, there was an officer-involved shooting investigation. There was an officer that did fire their weapon, and that's someone who will be on administrative leave. And across the street, you can still see this, very much the case. Investigation still underway. Law enforcement vehicles still lining up all along down the hotel. And this area of the interstate, if you are north of 1431 at Old Settlers Boulevard, you are going to want to find another route if you're headed into Austin for the next 4 to 6 hours, we're told by Round Rock Police. But right now, a lot of people waking up, just like many of us who work in the news or many of us who just live here. It is a little bit of a sigh of relief that if we get a package, we don't have to make a phone call to police today. We're reporting alongside Interstate 35, Jordan Bonke, CBS Austin News.
Thanks, Jordan. As you can imagine, President Trump has already tweeted about this event and basically thanking the authorities. And he says the Austin bombing suspect is dead. Great job by law enforcement and all concerned. And Governor Greg Abbott has also spoke about this, and he's kind of echoing what Chief Brian Manley and Mayor Adler have been saying.
Well, and the governor's the one that also allocated so much money because he wanted authorities to find whoever was responsible for this, and a reward was even offered as well.
Yeah, and he's saying the Austin bomber is dead. More needs to be done, and that's what Chief Manley has been pushing as well, to ensure that the bombs had had been sent before he died. The investigation continues to learn more information, but congrats to the combined law enforcement. As you know, this is an international story, and we have hundreds of law enforcement that have been in Austin since early March regarding these serial bombings that have started on March 2nd. This is again a live look at the scene where this all culminated after the vehicle that the suspect was in pulled into a ditch. As the officers were approaching, a device was detonated inside the vehicle, and that killed the suspect.
It started March 2nd, as Allison mentioned, and we want to let you know that was when that first bomb went off in one of the homes here in Austin. Can we get a map of and I just show our viewers where these bombs have gone off since March 2nd that did cause 2 people to be killed? There it is. The first one was there on Haverford Drive. That is where Anthony House was killed. Then it moved down to Old Fort Hill Drive. And then Galindo Street. Galindo Street is where a 75-year-old woman was injured, but it's that Old Fort Hill where a 17-year-old boy was killed. His mother hurt. And then you go to Don Song Drive. That is the one where that tripwire was detonated. To fast forward to Shirts, which was yesterday, where that package was detonated at a distribution center at FedEx. But it's the first one where police were puzzled. They didn't know what to label this. Was it a homicide or was it a random act? In that first bombing is when Anthony House was killed. Narelle Wainwood says while House is not his biological brother, he's the closest thing to it. House's family took him in almost 30 years ago. He tells us the last 2.5 weeks have been extremely hard. Not only has he lost a brother, but House left behind a wife and an 8-year-old daughter who he was teaching to ride her bike just days prior. Wainwood says each time the family attempted to start the healing process, another bombing made the news. He says it was like reopening a wound over and over.
He's always been the type to be able to take care of himself and protect everyone. For him to be a victim of something like this is really surreal.
House's family has set up a GoFundMe to help with his daughter's education. You can find a link to that website, or to that on our website, cbsaustin.com. Just click on the story.
It's 6:22 on this Wednesday morning. Again, the Austin serial bombing suspect is dead. This happened just a few hours ago on I-35 and Old Settlers, and that's where FBI, local police are there. A lot of reaction coming in this morning. We do have team coverage for you with reporters on the scene, and also Lindsay Littman, new reaction from law enforcement now as well.
And we'll get to that in just a second. But first, I want to let all of our viewers know that some information was just sent out by Round Rock school officials that school will resume on a normal schedule this morning, but any absences for tardiness will be excused due to I-35 being shut down at this hour. So once again, school will start on time. If you're late, that absence will be excused. I want to go to these See Something, Say Something tweets that have just been pouring in from local law enforcement. A few minutes ago, the UT Austin Police Department sent out this tweet. Many developments overnight with the bombing situation in our city. A suspect is deceased, but we continue our efforts to make sure there are no lingering threats. The chief of police for UT Austin says remain vigilant. If you see something, say something. Round Rock Police sending out this tweet this morning as well, echoing the same concerns that the bombing suspect is dead, but they want everyone to remain vigilant regarding suspicious packages. Call 911 if you see something suspicious. And the Williamson County Sheriff Robert Chody also reminding evidence that though the bomber's dead, vigilance is still a must in this case. So a lot of law enforcement just in the last 30 minutes to an hour sending out those tweets to remind their local communities that they need to stay safe out there and remain vigilant. Back to you.
Thanks, Lizzie. You know, a lot of this is because although they've had him as a suspect, they don't know where this guy has been over the past 24 hours. So they don't know if he had other devices, other packages that he had already placed somewhere in the city. And so that's why police are saying,
there's no real pattern. And we saw on that map, there was no real pattern.
Oh.
And then that tripwire this Sunday, I think just threw authorities off as well, because it had all been bombs in packages.
Yeah, well, and Fred Burton, the security expert we were talking about, there's a look at where those explosions were over the past month, but he was saying that he possibly have been stockpiling these, made a bunch of them, and so we don't know if that police were able to get all of them accounted for.
And that's the key that the chief was saying, is that remain vigilant. Adam Hammonds was at that news conference where the police chief Brian Manley was able to address the media, as well with a number of federal agents, the FBI and ATF. Adam, what do you have for us?
Well, yeah, there's just a couple more things I wanted to point out from this press conference, because there really was a lot to unpack there. Both ATF, FBI, and Chief Manley and Mayor Adler did talk in that press conference. But one thing the FBI says that they really pointed out that they wanted to thank the law enforcement officers out here tonight, because they said they put their lives on the line. When that explosion detonated, one officer was thrown back. It did have minor injuries. Another officer responded and shot back. But those two officers responded to this suspect knowing that he might have had any kind of devices inside that car at the time. So they really wanted to point out that these officers put their lives on the line tonight to try and get the suspect into custody. That FBI official also said that they will be here as long as it takes. This is not over. This investigation is still ongoing behind me here as they look at the crime scene, but they're also looking as far as the entire investigation, maybe going to the suspect's house if they know where that is, maybe finding any kind of clues as to why the suspect did this. They said they want to find out what happened, why it happened, and how it happened. This investigation is still ongoing. This is not over, even though this suspect is dead. And I do also want to point out that we don't have a motive at this time. That's something a lot of people really wanted to know. I asked Chief Manley if they were able to talk with this suspect before he detonated the device, and he said no, they did not. They were not afforded the opportunity to talk. Maybe they might find something, any kind of clues somewhere out, but as of this time, we don't know a motive at this time. That is still under investigation. And one final thing Chief Manley did say in his press conference, he wanted to end with this. He said, our thoughts and prayers are with the victims' families at this time, as far as those two people who were killed and those three people who were injured. One person seriously injured, may be affected their entire life. Two men in their 20s who were injured may also be affected for their entire life. We do know they're okay. We don't know how much injuries or even the mental impact of having that happen in their own neighborhood. So we wanted to really have our hearts are with those victims' families right now. And Chief Manley said we are standing by to help them if anything they need throughout their needs as far as their recovery process and the victims' recovery process as far as the grieving process. For now, we're back to you guys.
Adam, you have been there for several hours. Have you noticed a decrease of law enforcement in that particular area where that serial bomber killed himself?
I have not noticed a decrease in law enforcement. However, just the past couple minutes, I have noticed that some first responders are leaving the area. There was an ambulance and a couple fire trucks who left the area. This may be coming into a scene that as far as first responders, ambulance, and fire trucks, they don't need to be here as much. But the crime scene, FBI, ATF, they're all still here. There's still a decent presence. As you can see, there used to be some fire trucks in the background. Those have since gone, now left with ATF, Round Rock, bomb squad, law enforcement. They're all still here investigating the scene, but as far as that first responder, that response, they may have left. So it may be turning just into a crime scene as far as that goes, as we continue to block traffic here. But they did say it's going to be for the next 4 to 6 hours when we block the 935. Well, not from now. That was from a few hours ago. So maybe till about 8 o'clock or so.
Right, yeah, we don't know how long, but they'll be on scene for well through rush hour. Thank you, Adam Hammonds, reporting from the scene at I-35 and Old Settlers Boulevard. If you're just waking up, it is 6:29. The Austin serial bomber is killed this morning. He killed himself. He detonated a device as police were approaching. A lot of new information coming in to the newsroom as you're waking up this morning, so we're going to stay on top of this. This is a live look at the scene. Taking a quick break. We'll be back with more.
And throughout these weeks, we've talked about the importance of remaining vigilant and looking out for each other. I want to continue that message as we stand here this morning, though, because we don't know where this suspect has spent his last 24 hours, and therefore we still need to remain vigilant to ensure that no other packages or devices have been left through the community.
6:32 right now. If you are just waking up, you're waking up to some breaking news. Austin Police Chief Brian Manley there addressing the media about an hour ago. The serial bomber has killed himself in what appears to be a self-detonated device.
That's right. The big takeaways from what Chief Manley is saying is that they They don't know where he's been the last 24 hours, so they don't know if there are other packages that could possibly be out there. So they still want people to call in if you do see something suspicious. This is a live look at the scene of where they are. They did have this guy. They're saying he is a 24-year-old white male. They have not released his name yet as a person of interest, but he became a suspect just in the last 24 hours, and that led them to his vehicle in Round Rock. And a lot of the leads were from video sources and witnesses, and a lot of the video is coming from that FedEx location on Brody Lane. You're only going to see these images here on CBS Austin. These are pictures of this person dropping off the packages over the weekend. One ended up in Schertz, Texas, that exploded yesterday morning. Another one that did not detonate at the airport, at the Austin FedEx location near the airport.
Let's get right to our Jordan Bonke. Jordan, you have been at this location in Round Rock where we're taking those live images since about 2 o'clock this morning, and you were there when we did get confirmation that that serial bomber killed himself. Good morning. What do you have for us?
Well, I can tell you right now that at I-35 headed back north is actually starting to build up, and that has perhaps a little bit to do with some of the rubbernecking that's taking place as people wake up, maybe get these push alerts on their phones or find out on the news that the Austin bombing suspect is dead. And again, what we found out from police is that they got a tip and they were surveilling this suspect for the past few hours over at this Red Roof Inn, which is over here on my left shoulder here. And then once that suspect decided to leave, and we had a witness out here say that it was a Jeep that he left in, that he was being pursued, eventually he stopped on the interstate, and that's when he was sandwiched between two different unmarked law enforcement vehicles. And he did die by detonating some sort of device in his car, this 24-year-old suspect. And when Brian Manley was talking about this during the press conference, he said that the blast was so significant that it actually blew back one of those SWAT officers who was responding to that scene there. And if you go back and you look at the bomb that went off in the Northwest Austin neighborhood that killed that 39-year-old father, you can see the drywall completely blown out on the left-hand side. If you hear about the woman involving in the March 12th bombings, that 75-year-old Hispanic woman that's still not identified, we heard that she's still in critical condition as of Monday. And you saw the divot in the ground in Southwest Austin. It may not be impressive there, but you can see sharp, precise shrapnel cutouts on the fence from how severe, and that one was detonated by a tripwire, we're told by police. So these were some very sophisticated explosives, but again, a sigh of relief for a lot of people that are waking up this morning. But the message that Austin police and Mayor Adler and other Round Rock police even had tweeted about this earlier, is to stay vigilant, is to try your best right now to keep in mind that they were not aware of the past 24 hours of where this suspect was. And so they could have left more of these explosive packages throughout Austin. And of course, Brian Manley even said that there's an investigation in Schertz, Texas, near San Antonio, and that distribution center. So that's something that we're going to have to follow up on as well. But as of right now, a little sigh of relief for the folks who are waking up this morning knowing that this suspect is no longer here. However, Brian Manley did end his press conference on a solemn note, reminding folks that yes, even though that this was a stressful month for him and for the entire community, there are two families tonight that are without those two family members. The other last thing that we want to mention this morning is that if you are headed down Interstate 35, this is going to be closed off as they're continuing to investigate this for the next 4 to 6 hours. Sophia Stamas will have more on that.
Yeah, and you need to put it into perspective. If you